They receive visits from deceased loved ones in your dreams? My brother passed 5 years ago. I've seen him in my dreams only twice and it was recent. I recognized his face, but it wasn't quite how he used to look. He looked more angelic and healthy. I'm not religious. I'm not really sure what I believe happens to you when you die. I feel like I can't be making this up. I enjoy their visits in my dreams. Me too. Yes. I fully believe that our loved ones appear in our dreams to communicate something we may not accept hearing about from anyone else. It's so peaceful. Me too. Me too, but sadly most of my dad's ones were sad. He wasn't a happy or healthy person, and I hate that in my dreams he usually still isn't. I dream about my dad sometimes. Often in the dream. He didn't die, but we thought he did, and he won't ever explain what happened. Typical dad, really. The one dream I had with my mom was like this. She showed up in my sister's house that my sister moved into after my mom's death, so my mom had never been there. I was so angry at her, asking her where she'd been all this time. She just smiled and said nothing. I feel like she just turned up to see me and that was all. I should say first that my dad and I had an agreement for years that if he died first he had to find a way to come back if I was right about life after death. He didn't believe in life after death but still made the agreement in a way to prove there was nothing. My dad did that, smiling and saying nothing in my dream. I was in our home and turned round and saw him, and he just kept smiling, and I had forgotten in my dream he had died, and I was talking to him saying, "Oh Dad, you look fantastic. But we were all very worried about you for some reason, and I can't think why now because you look great." He kept smiling and saying nothing. Then I remembered he died and I said, "Oh, you died. Dash." Quote. He just kept smiling and I said, "You're not going to come back in my dreams, are you?" And he just kept smiling and shook his head. Never dreamed of him again. I had same type of dream after my mom passed in 1994 from cancer. In my dream she is healthy and I tell her, "Oh, see, you were okay." But then my mood changes when I realize she is gone, and then I wake up. It was so hard for me to wake up to her not there. Anger, sadness all rolled up in one emotion. It is definitely bittersweet. So fantastic to see them looking well. If I hadn't made a deal with my dad, look Dad, every instinct in my body and the first law of thermodynamics says you're wrong and life goes on. So when you die please come back and show me. I think I would have been more distressed and angry. In with the utter joy of seeing him happy and healthy. Something similar happened with my grandpa a little after he died. So his personally was like that ish IRL. He was just a very quiet, private man. He was hard to get info out of sometimes. Me too, and most of the time he never speaks. In real life he never stopped telling his stories. OMG, I have the same thing. Sometimes I get vague reason. Like he faked his death or he was living with a secret other family. And my dad was always a sweet and honest person, so it's weird that it's how my unconscious mind is processing his memory. It's always kinda annoying actually. I had one like that. My dad had cancer the doctors said he was supposed to be able to live with. Unfortunately he did not. So I have a vivid dream of my dad coming home and saying, "Sorry for dying," basically. My mom was told terminal. Probably 2 years without treatment. Unknown with chemo. The chemo killed her in 2 months. She had kidney issues and they couldn't handle the chemo. My mom went through something very similar. It was very hard to lose her fairly quickly. I'm sorry for your loss. I had one like that about my brother. He died by suicide completely out of the blue. The prior summer he had traveled to Russia, and in my dream my brain had come to the conclusion that he didn't die by suicide, but knew something he shouldn't have from his trip, and it was a cover-up. Rational me knows it was not a cover-up. I'm sorry for your loss of your brother. It's so jarring to have dreams like these. I guess our brains are trying to rewrite things in a more pleasant way. But then when I wake up, I feel the loss all over again. Annoying brain. I have a recurring dream where both of my dead parents are living with us. One of them is sick, but we can't take them to a doctor because they are officially dead. Oh no. Sad face. This exact thing happens to me too. Same with my mom. My husband died suddenly 5 months ago. The other week, I got to spend a whole day with him in my dream. His voice, his laugh, his reassurance. When I woke, I could still feel the weight of his arm around my shoulders. I'm so sorry. My heart goes out to you. Sorry for your loss. Heartbreaking happy you were given another day with him. He must love you very much. That sounds like a really special dream. My grandma passed a few months ago and she shows up in my dreams a lot. Probably once a week at the least. She always looks just how she looked when I was a kid, and we do things together we always did over a decade ago. It just happened last night where we went to a baseball game together. Got ice cream at the local ice cream shop. Came back to her old house, which was sold off like 5 years ago. And she made her special spaghetti with butter bread while I hung out with her dog. Watched the prick. The E is right. And played with dominoes. I think in my dream I was a kid again? Like 7-ish. I'm 23 now. It's always so jarring when I wake up. The dreams are so vivid and as if it was real life. Everything is just how it was like 15 to 16 years ago, and I didn't know my mind could do that. Mannerisms and sayings she said often that I had kinda put in the back of my head and hadn't remembered until then. I am also not religious. But it's nice seeing them again, even if only in a dream. I relate to this so much. I lost my mom 7 months ago and I'm always shocked to see her so clearly in dreams. Not at all recreatable during the awake daytime. You wake up with the thankfulness of seeing them. But the jarring reality of them being gone and not being able to see them of your own will. That's nice. I loved my grandma so much. I wish she appeared in my dreams. She wasn't very spiritual. Perhaps that's why? My grandma was very religious, and any religious thing I did as a kid was mostly for her. Communion, Sunday school, prayers before meals, going to church. It was something that connected us even though I didn't really believe in it. Haha, only wanted to spend time together, I guess. That's a wonderful dream. She is visiting you. I've woke up crying because the dream of my mom ended. My husband has consoled my waking mess many mornings. I love dreaming of my mom. She visits often and I hate waking up from it. I woke up crying from a dream where we had a going away party for my brother. He was present and we all knew he was going to die, but we couldn't stop it. We were sending him off to heaven and he was having a great time. I woke up crying from a dream of my grandfather once and it was so gut-wrenching. I felt such a deep level of sadness and grief that I hadn't felt since he died. It was almost like he was helping me let my emotions out and work through the grief that I hadn't really expressed while awake. I dream about friends and family. My friend shows up in weird situations. On his bike like when we were kids. Once trying to sell me cell phones. But a lot of times I can recognize it and say, "Hey, I miss you, you're not here anymore." And he'll hang around. One of my family that died shows up in hyper-real dreams that I wake from and feel sad to find. They're dreams. My mom has only been in a few and they weren't clear. Not everyone I've lost has been in dreams. I always just feel nice when I get to see them so clearly again. My granny passed in 1976. She comes by at least once a month. My husband died tragically 38 years ago. I still have interactive type dreams of him at least twice weekly. It's as if we still have an ongoing life together. In these dreams we're having discussions, planning things and experiencing daily life together. Appearance-wise, he looks the same as he did before he passed away at age 31. His mannerisms, voice, personality traits are all quite apparent. And the dreams tend to be complex, not brief. Upon awakening, I typically have a sense of comfort in deep peacefulness. That's amazing. It truly is. He still has my red heart. Most recent dream. We were discussing opening a microbrewery. He was a brainy, motivated entrepreneur. My dad died in December and I'm desperate to dream about him so I can see him again crying. When my best friend died, I had a couple dreams immediately after. A few weeks. And then didn't have another for a while. They will come to you when you least expect it and maybe when you need it most. My condolences for the passing of your dad. It must be a lot to deal with. Thank you, smile. Sorry for your loss. You're very kind. Thank you, smile. When my dad died, I didn't have dreams of him until a few years later. But he did other things to let me know he's still around. Pay attention to everything around you. And if you feel like he's there or that some weird phenomenon is something he'd do, just say, "Hi Dad, I miss you." First instance with my dad was very soon after he died. We had a speaker of his and we woke up to it turning on and off repeatedly. My now ex got up and messed with it, but it kept doing it until we said hi and acknowledged Ed, my dad. Then it stopped. Also, this speaker was Bluetooth but not battery powered. It needed to be plugged into an outlet to work, which it wasn't at this time. It was just chillin'. My dad passed in 2012 and I love dream visits. I miss him frequently. What's neat is when I will dream about them at ages that never happened, like my late mom at age 30 talking to my son as a teenager in the same dream. Ah, that's actually really sweet. Don't undersell your brain. It's capable of amazing things, including very vivid dream sequences. This is very true, and goddamn it, I get so wrapped up in a lot of my dreams. Haha, they are wild. Yes, and in the dreams I experience a euphoria I've never felt in real life. It's such a sense of relief. Mostly because I'm doing something in my dreams that I don't want to be doing. And if there's ever a time to put down all my responsibilities, it's when my dead best friend appears next to me in the car. Often for me as well. Most of the time it is my mother. My dad has appeared in my dreams, but not in any way I'd consider a visit, any more than I consider dreaming of my childhood home a vacation. It's just a dream conjured up from memories, like they all are. Yes. I see it as a blessing. I do believe that death is the end, but it's a comfort to me that they're not gone in my memory. Dreams can seem very vivid and real. It's just like seeing them again. I do. My dad passed about 5 years ago, and every now and then I have dreams where he is alive. The weird thing is that in the dream, we, the rest of my family, know that he died. We just are grateful that he is with us again, and so we don't focus on that fact. Those are my dreams too. In my dreams he gets to come back, but has to die again. The first time wasn't real. It's bittersweet for sure. I see my parents several times a week. They've both been dead for a long time. But in my dreams it seems completely normal that they're walking around and doing things with me. I don't know why my subconscious doesn't seem to realize they're dead. It happens to me as well. Did he talk to you in your dreams? What happened? I spent the night in my car last night after a fight with my spouse. I briefly fell asleep and had a vivid dream of my brother knocking on my car window. I said, "What?" and opened the door. He told me to go home. Why? I asked. He said, "Look at all the people who love you," and proceeded to open the car door to show a bunch of people standing around and visibly cold. I was shivering in my car. I didn't recognize any of the people standing there, but I was moved by how many people showed up. I was struggling with suicidal thoughts sleeping in my car. It was such a direct dream, it kind of freaked me out. It sounds as though your brother is reaching out from wherever he is now and trying to help you. He must really love you. Did you take his advice? I did. I went back home. It's so hard because I had a very distant relationship with my brother and I never got to know him. His friends said that he talked about me a lot. I always thought he couldn't care less about me. My younger sister had a similar relationship with our dad. He did love her, but she was all over the place mentally. And also my mom's side of the family would very much use her against us. My dad did the same with me, though both of them are guilty here. But it pisses me off when my mom and grandmother and even older sister, who's got a different dad, tell my younger sister he never cared about her or loved her and she shouldn't miss him. I've always corrected them because I talked to him the most, and probably knew him the most. And he did love her and always tried to see her. He wanted to help her and be there for her, but due to the relationship between him and our mom's family, it was very hard. He talked about her a lot, and even before he died he had been talking to her more since she got a phone. He didn't understand her, but he did absolutely love her, and I seem to be the only one who reminds her of that. Pisses me off how my mom and her side of the family vilify him completely without accepting their parts in it all. All of them were guilty and abusive. The difference is with my dad, I don't think was intentionally ever. He was just a bit fucked in the head and addicted to drugs. Our mom did intentionally fucked up shit to all of us. Dad didn't lock us in the room or outside. He didn't restrict us from food. We were just dirt poor, but any food we did have he made sure I ate before him. He didn't force feed us cough syrup. He did a lot of bad shit, especially to me. But not malicious the way our mom did. Yes, my dad visits me, and every once in a while my grandpa does too. I usually wake up crying, but I still am glad to have them. I would love to dream about my mom. I think I've had maybe one or two since she passed away 9 years ago. I do sometimes, it's nice. Sometimes I'm somewhat lucid and know they're dead IRL. But out of respect for them I don't tell them they're figments of my imagination. I was living with my best friend when he unexpectedly died from cancer. After his loved ones got what they wanted out of the house, they told me I could do what I wanted with the rest, so I gave it to his friends. Now I have a recurring dream where I find out he's alive and I have to tell him I gave away all his stuff. I saw my dad repeatedly after he died. However, he always said the same thing, "Forgive me." It took me several months before I was able to do that. I stopped seeing him at that point. I have smelled his particular scent a few times. He was a chain smoker. Used a hair pomade and practically drenched himself in Old Spice. Each time I smelled him, I would hear that one of my siblings died. I wonder if that's part of why the dreams with my dad were the way they were. I haven't had one in a while. Like a year maybe? But in the dreams he was never well, mentally or physically. And I think he couldn't express it, but simply wanted me to know through all the shit we went through. He always loved me even if he could never show it. It is only recently really I think I fully understand and accept our dynamic and his issues. And 100% forgive him. He always loved me, he was just fighting so much internally and externally to really be able to properly act like it. I have several times. I see deceased loved ones in my dreams. It usually takes years until I make peace with their passing. I am psychic and have lucid dreams. I also get visits from them at times. I used to dream about my partner who passed away all the time, and the last time I did he said he had to go, and last thing I said in the dream sobbing was, "Will I see you again?" And I woke up crying. Never dreamt about him again. My older brother passed in '96, and the most recent dream he had of him was a while ago. Like in the 10 I think, or before that. But it was a really vivid. Autocorrect tried changing vivid to COVID, go figure. Dream. Hugged him and spoke to him and all. My dad passed in '19, and I haven't even had a real chance to grieve yet cause of the situation I got thrown in, and now taking care of my mom who has dementia. I could definitely use a visit and some damn help. Just dropping in to say I am so sorry for your losses. Seems like you've been through a rough patch of grief. Sending good thoughts your way. Hugs. I didn't know him in real life, but Paul Rubens visited me. It was one of these dreams where you could feel and see everything very vividly. He was happy and healthy and treated me like we had known each other for years, and when he hugged me, I felt his arms tighten around me and felt the texture of his suit he was wearing. This took place a few weeks after he had passed on. I've had many visits from loved ones, including another celebrity that passed on that I've actually met in real life. Jason, David Frank. But Paul's spirit reached out to let me know he was okay and at peace. I've seen my great-grandmother, my grandfather, and other family members and friends, including my best friend. Dreams are their way of them telling us they're still with us. Red heart. Some years ago I awoke in my bedroom in Las Vegas, envy with the feeling that my younger brother was in the room. He lived in New York at the time. A few hours later his wife calls me to tell me he had died that morning. One of my favorites wasn't even that out there. We were all just hanging out at home. And he walked in. We were all like, what the hell, man? And he said he gets a pass every now and then. So I asked him what it was like. And he, typically, said that I'd never get it. But not to worry, he was fine. I asked him for a selfie and he's like, sure. Quote. And fixes his fare and stuff. I took it and it's just me. He just laughed with a, gotcha. Quote. Friggin' Greg. A wise ass in the afterlife. Yes. Once by my mother. She died relatively young. Smoker. When I was in my 20s. In the dream, she was being held captive by someone with a knife to her throat. It was so horrific thinking that she was trying to tell me this from beyond the grave. It's still distressing all these years later. My first thought was that she was comparing her smoking to being a hostage, which in reality it was. When I had the dream, I felt that she was being held hostage by death, and that she was terrified by being dead. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints believe that until a person is baptized, they are held captive after they die. If you've ever seen an LDS temple off in the distance and wondered why we would build such a building, it's so we can honor our dead and perform proxy baptisms and other saving ordinances for those who didn't have the opportunity to accept them while living. Look it up if you're curious. Oh no, I am sorry. That's a pretty traumatizing dream indeed. Oh no, I am sorry. That's a pretty traumatizing dream indeed. My grandmother passed in 2017. We were close. And I obviously still miss her. I have dreams where I'm at a vague family gathering, usually a convergence of holidays, weddings, etc. And grandma will be there. And I'm the only one going, hold on. This isn't right. No one else in the dream is freaking out. I'm the only one who knows she's not supposed to be here. Sometimes I get the chance to tell her that I love her, but that she can't stay, or that I can't stay with her. But I usually wake up before then. And #X200B. And #X200B. And #X200B. And #X200B. Warning: more graphic dream in regard to another relative. Warning. And #X200B. Greater than. Meanwhile, my grandfather on the other side of the family died. We were not close. He was a horrible person. And I never had fond dreams of him. The only dream I had about his death was a nightmare. Less than. Greater than. The funeral service was going on. And there was his casket. He was cremated IRL. And suddenly these harpoons shot diagonally into the casket from opposite sides of the church. The ropes at the end of the harpoons shortened, dragging his blackened corpse out of the casket, suspending him in the air, and ripping him in half, spilling his innards. Less than. Greater than. To this day I don't know where that dream came from, or why I even dreamt about him. To begin with. Less than. All the time. Honestly, they are usually not welcome. My maternal grandma died last year and I dream about her all the time. My paternal grandmother just died a few weeks ago and I had a dream about her this past week. I enjoy the dreams. As long as they aren't scary. Because I really miss them. It's nice to be able to see them, and as vivid as my dreams are, it really feels like they are real. Sorry for your losses. Thank you. I've ever experienced this. I've realized they're in my dream. And have tried to keep them from leaving. I've also realized I'm dreaming and just clung to the dream, wishing it to last forever. About 3 weeks after my ex-turned friend passed away, he came to me in a dream. I knew he was dead in the dream. And I said so to him as I was like, "What the hell are you doing here?" He said that he didn't have long and that he needed to tell me something. Then could hear my alarm going off while still dreaming. I just remember saying, "No. Please. Not yet," begging to stay asleep long enough to hear what he had to say. But then I woke up. I haven't dreamt of him since. But I look forward to going to sleep every night in hopes that he'll come visit me again. Yes. It only happened 2x. Once with grandma and once with grandpa. I know exactly what you are talking about. This is called a visitation. When a deceased loved one comes to you in a dream, it's a way for them to communicate with you while you are uninhibited in REM sleep. My 15-year-old brother died in 1998 in a car crash, and there was absolutely no closure from that experience. Several years later, he came to me in a dream, and no words can accurately describe what happened. My recollection is very brief. But I was with my brother in the yard of the house where we grew up, next to a storage shed. He was a grown-ass man. About 33. I remember specifically knowing he looked like himself, but all grown up. I was hysterical crying, and he was making fun of me and telling me not to cry. And then he gave me the most enveloping, comforting hug that I have ever felt. I could literally feel him hugging me in the dream, and I didn't want to let go. Then it was over. Years later, I went to a mediumship demonstration and received a beautiful reading where I heard all kinds of specific things about my brother and someone else who passed at the same time. At the conclusion of the reading, the medium says, "Oh yeah, your brother says to tell you the dream was real." I could have fainted. My brother and I have a very strong spiritual connection, and he shows me all the time that he's around. But that dream takes the cake. I guess you can technically call it visits. But my dreams of my deceased family members are all memories. I guess they're trying to tell me something. My best friend took her life in the girls' locker room. I accidentally walked in and saw her, and the teachers screamed at me to leave. I have a reoccurring dream of her standing at the door, and when I get to the door about to walk in, she guides me away so I don't see inside. And we'll just walk and talk about things we used to talk about when she was alive. I wish someone could explain this for me. It sounds like she doesn't want you to remember her dead, but as who she was, is. Yeah, they pop up once in a while, other dead people too. I sure do. One time I dreamed about the daughter we lost in utero, sulking on her bed as a teenager. She was mad I spent all my attention and time on our living daughter. Yep, my dad recently appeared and just said my name. Woke up and cried my eyes out. I always dream about my ma'am, and I've lost a dad and brother, but it's always my ma'am. She died in November. And it's always her in hospital and she going to make it. Then I wake up with a bit of hope, then I remember it's awful feeling, but I always think least I got some time where it didn't hurt as much. You're not. He wanted to say he loved you and let you know it's okay to let go. I'm glad it was a positive experience for you. My mom visited me. Our relationship was strained, so I had a high-action suspense encounter. It left me sad and yearning. Very, very, very rarely. I wish I did more often. I had one visit from my little brother. He is 10 years younger than me. I lost him from an accidental overdose 7 years ago as of 03/20. He visited me on my birthday a few years back. Nothing substantial. No words of wisdom. What stood out to me was how he was dressed. He was a very trendy person, and he was dressed in running shorts, a t-shirt and long socks. Reminded me of his dad, lol. I think it was more of a hey, what's up kinda thing. I lost our mom 6 months later and I never had a is it from her. My father visited me a few times. I was really pissed at him once, as he had faked his death in the dream. My older sister has stopped by every now and then, too, but it's mostly just been her hanging out with me at my current age. Today is actually my father's birthday. He'd be 77 today. Gonna be taking a trip to Arlington later today to see him. I had this same dream about my grandpa. In my dream, he had faked his own death and my grandma found out. She made me drive her to the apartment where he was staying and she ran in to tell him she was divorcing him for putting her through this. Very eerie but honestly a bit comical, as my grandparents always had funny, petty arguments. My father was a colonel in the Air Force and worked for the DoD after he lost his 20/20 vision and couldn't fly anymore. He passed away from brain cancer when I was 14. The dream in question was him showing up at my current age and explaining that he had to fake his death for his job. He even had a new family. Oh, I went off on him. How dare he ditch my mother, older sister, and me. Fuck his excuses. We needed him. The worst part was that Dream Dad didn't get it. He was the greatest and that I've ever known in the real world. But he just came off as a piece of shit in dreamland. It's one of the few dreams that I still remember in detail. My dad comes from time to time. Some days he's pleased and other days he's keeping me in check. Yes, I very much look forward to the visits. You wish they would last longer. I had a dream the other night where the best dog I ever had came running out from the back room, jumped on the bed with me and we snuggled. He died of cancer at just 7 years old. Best dream ever. I could feel his soft fur and he weighed on my body. He was a big white boxer. Like 70 pounds. My big guy Chewy comes and visits me every once in a while too. My mother and father are in my dreams all the time. I get furious when I dream of my deceased friends and family. I know it's just my brain messing with me and I'll be sad in the morning when I wake up and remember that they are gone. I scream at them, "You're not real, get out of my dreams." Quote, my dad passed away 8 years ago. I've had a few dreams with him. The one that still fuck with me is him coming home and said, "Sorry I've been gone for so long. Didn't mean to do that to you guy." I also get dreams before anything happens. The night before my mom had a stroke I dreamt I went to a hospital. Went to the front desk. And screamed, "Help me, I am going to die. If you don't help me I am gonna die." Absolutely. I believe that is how the dead come to visit us. I dream of my great-grandparents once in a while. My parents stop by randomly and usually it's my dad more so than my mom. However, it's so infrequent that it makes me paranoid, like they're trying to tell me something all the time. It's really intense for me. I often wake up full on sobbing after having some really intense conversations or things happen in the dream. All the time. It's often really intense in these dreams and I wake up sobbing pretty often. And the most frequent lately has been my great-grandmother who died 16 years before I was born. Only once. I dreamed about my grandfather in the night of my 17th birthday. In the dream someone knocked at the door and when I opened it there was my grandfather and then I woke up. It's been almost 23 years since my mom passed. At first, I never dreamed about her. The past few years, I think I dream about her at least once a week. I totally believe this happened to you. I also lost my brother 2 years ago. He has not visited me in dreams, but he did visit one of his closest friends and her description of it was so very much him. I wish he would visit me, but that's up to him, I guess. My dad died almost 30 years ago. I've only had one dream about him. And he's the only person who has passed that I've dreamed about. It was maybe a year after he died. And I dreamed that we were at a little carnival. We just had a lovely day. I remember we rode the teacups but not much else specific. As the dream was coming to an end, I started to remember that he was dead. Which was probably good for waking up because I didn't have to wake up and then come to the realization. I've always felt very peaceful remembering that dream. Just had a dream about my grams last night. I love when they visit like that. Makes me want to go back to sleep so I can be with them again. I dream about my dad sometimes. I wouldn't go so far as to say he's visiting me any more than thinking my dream about someone alive is somehow visiting me in my sleep. He usually looks like his younger self when I was a kid more than his aged self when he passed. I've had a few dreams with my late grandpa, but in 2 of them he was angry. Nothing like he was in real life. In the others I knew he was there somewhere. I could sense him, but I couldn't find him. I spent the whole dream searching everywhere for him. He hasn't visited me in a long time. I really miss him. When my mom passed, she came to me. I didn't dream about them very often for the first few years, and when I did, it was always something along the lines of them coming home after being away on a long trip. But for the last few years, I dream about them all the time, and now they're just kind of there. Like it's normal. I don't think the dreams mean anything, but it's nice to have the illusion of getting to interact with them again. My parents are in my dreams quite a bit. Yes. After my dad died, he visited me 2 or 3 times in my dreams. I could tell they were visits and not regular dreams, because he was sitting there smiling at me and not saying anything. And I knew that he was visiting. I didn't take his presence for granted like I do with a regular dream. I knew my family was mildly religious, but it was never pushed on me, so I left it alone, and I'm admittedly still ignorant about the Bible and its teachings. Anyway, I was like 13/14 when my grandpa died. It wasn't great. I was woken up in the middle of the night to my mom and grandma arguing and calling the paramedics because he wasn't responsive. Side note, I was in the living room with him when he was napping that day before his death at night, and it was the first time I had ever seen him look terrified. He awoke with a start and the whites of his eyes were huge. I unfortunately don't remember what he said. Back to the night of his death, I woke up and watched it all play out. He had brain cancer and it had spread, so we knew his overall prognosis. I was sad, but calm. We were very close when I was little, but I pulled away when he got sick. There was a moment where we were alone together. He was laying on the kitchen floor, and I was at the table just staring at his body while my family talked to the paramedics. It was an interesting, surreal moment. Skip to here if you want to get to the point. I went to school that day as normal, and when I went back to bed that night after his death, I had a dream. My grandpa was there. It was dark all around. It seemed like a low-hanging light bulb was illuminating a small area, and he was sitting in a chair underneath it. His expression and demeanor suggested he was in a sort of stupefied splendor. He seemed to be in joyous disbelief. All I can remember him saying is, "He is the real deal," gesturing upwards and pointing with his finger in the air while looking at me, saying, "He is the King of Kings." I never told anyone what he said in my dream. I took it as a personal goodbye and cherished it for what I thought it was. This is where the point of religion comes in. I knew not a lot about Christianity, even things that some people consider basic knowledge. It was not until several years later that I heard the phrase King of Kings again, and learned that it meant Jesus and the Lord basically. And my jaw dropped, because I remember what my grandpa said in that dream. At the time of his death, I guess I ignorantly and teenage defiantly identified as an atheist. Now I don't feel that way anymore. And as time has gone on, for more reasons than just that dream revelation, it is, however, the one dream I have had that I feel is a sort of proof that there is some level of consciousness after our physical body dies here. Fantastic. Yeah, my dad. Pretty often. It's wonderful but so sad to wake up. My mom and my brother visit me often. My brother the most, he died by suicide, and I like to think it's him keeping me from following his path as I deal with SI from time to time. My dreams of them are usually comforting. Though sometimes with mom we are arguing. Not much different than life. One of the early dreams of my brother, I asked him what he was doing here and he said he just had to go away for a while. I'm not religious either and I was straight up atheist for a long time. I'm a biologist, so I champion the scientific method, but I truly believe that we do not just go blank when we die. I believe that there is something more. I cannot prove it. I cannot explain. I can only experience it. I lost my mother to cancer when I was a teenager and I have had dreams as well. I've also had experience in my life I cannot rationalize. I think your brother has come to you so that you can see that he is at peace and no longer in pain. That's what I choose to believe. I once had a coworker that had been diagnosed with cancer. Strangely, I had a dream of him one night. He was floating over me as I slept and he was wearing white robes and they were fluttering in the breeze and he stroked my face and said, "Wake up. It's time to go." I woke up and just felt so odd about it. I went by after work and visited him and thanked him for being my friend. He died that night only hours after I left. I keep having dreams about my dad. The one that really fucked me up. I walk into his house and I need a ride somewhere and ask. And his back is to me and he just goes, "Yeah, I can. Thanks for asking." And then I woke up. It makes me cry. And it's fucked 'cause actual memories of him don't. Grandparents. My siblings. A couple of times. It's been several years since the last visit. But I remember the dreams so vividly. I've saw my sister. She was in a mansion dressed in all white with many others. The floors, walls are bright white. It was beautiful. She spoke and told me to come back. It was not my time. She passed at 39 but she looked like she did in high school. When my wife passed unexpectedly, I dreamed of her every single night for the first 3 to 4 months. I wasn't quite lucid dreaming but somehow knew that I had to make the most of those fleeting moments in my dreams, just cuddling, holding her. My sister passed and I've dreamt of her a couple times. She was mad in one of my dreams and happy and joking in another. My mom was hospitalized and they didn't give her insulin. She fell into a coma before I made it there and she never woke up. 2 days after my mom passed, I had a dream with her in a vibrant blue dress and she looked so good. She told me everything was going to be okay. Whether that was a real dream or my subconscious finding a way to ease my pain, I don't know. It did help me make peace with her death. My dad died in 2018. I had a dream about a year later that he was just in my kitchen, drinking coffee and reading a paper the way he always did. Then dream me suddenly said, "Dad, you're dead." And he smiled and said, "Yeah, but I'm here right now," and went back to his paper. After a bit he said he had to go and he hugged me and said he loved me. It brought me a lot of comfort when I was feeling very sad. I haven't had a dream of him since, but I'm even if I never do. That one was wonderful. I've had very realistic dreams involving my parents, only to wake up with the sad realization they were only dreams. And my folks were still dead. They weren't anything meaningful. At least the ones I remember weren't. They were just dreams that both parents happened to show up in. Yeah, sure. It's not uncommon. It's normal for them to look younger and healthier. Ask them in your dreams next time about life after death. Was your brother religious? My dad died in 2003. And my mom has dreamed about him literally every night since. He always joked that if he died first, he was going to haunt her. She thinks this is his way of doing it. I occasionally dream about lost loved ones. I also woke up in the middle of the night and knew my grandma had died before my mom called with the news. The night after we helped our boy cat across the Rainbow Bridge. He had very bad throat cancer. And we had a vet come to our home to put him to sleep in his favorite spot and in our arms. I dreamt that I was lying down in bed, and he jumped up to join me, snuggled into my neck while purring super hard. I woke up in the same position and it felt like he was right there. I miss him. I lost a close childhood friend suddenly when we were 20. Almost 11 years ago. I see her often in dreams. Usually around big events or milestones. In every dream I tell her that I know she can't stay. And we say goodbye. I never did get to say goodbye to her in person because none of us knew she was going to pass. I had a dream about my brother shortly after he died. I was in a church and he came and sat next to me. I asked him if he was going to be all scary and rot in front of me or stuff like that. He said no. Just wanted to sit a bit. It was nice. I've only dreamed of him a couple of other times. Yep, quite recently I have had dreams about my little brother. He was 15 when he passed away in 2016. In those dreams I saw me holding him, kissing him, we cuddling together. I cried every time I woke up. I had not had dreams about him too much for the first few years since he passed. Only now when I really feel depressed and lonely. He comes to see me in my dreams more. I love my brother so much. Yes, not frequently. I used to dream about my sister, who died when she was 19. About 25 years ago. One time she showed me around the town where she lives in the afterlife. My dad died 4 years ago and I see him in my dreams often. He was annoying in life and he annoys me in my dreams. My dog. After she passed, I had a dream that the vet put her down. But she came back to life when I took her home. I didn't want the vet to try to put her down again. So I kept it a secret that she was still alive. Now every time I dream of her, it's a continuation of that timeline. I love getting visits from her. I do. I lost my mom in 2019. And my older brother in 2020. I often get dreams of them hanging out like they were best friends. Which they were. And it's always them when they were at their happiest points in life, glowy and just radiating happiness. I'm not sure if it's something spiritual telling me they're okay or just me missing them extra that night, but I appreciate it regardless. I also frequently get dreams from my grandpa who died in 2011. Which always confuses me because I feel like we weren't super close since he was so sick for most of my life. I rarely do. But when my mom visits me in a dream, I feel especially blessed. She's usually wearing blue. I think it's interesting that people show up as more useful or angelic. Because I personally believe that we all have our best wellness spiritually. When a good friend died, I had dreams about her. In some of them, we knew she had cancer. But in all of them she was healthy and happy. Same with my mom. Not the being sick part. I think it's my way of comforting myself. A couple of times. My dad after he died. My maternal grandparents plus an old friend one time. I truly believe that I almost died that night. And they were there to greet me. I suddenly made a huge gasp. And the friend was disappointed I wasn't joining them. And my grandmother said, "I told you it wasn't her time yet." Yes. My brother has appeared to me in several dreams. They were very real. I dream about my parents all the time. I love it. Heart. In my experience, it absolutely happens, yes. It has nothing to do with religion. I have beautiful vivid dreams of deceased family or friends, but it's always on the night they pass away. Happened recently with my dad's bandmate he'd known since 17. I rang dad first thing in the morning to tell him I think Howard had died or something had happened to him because he was driving Route 66 in an old Cadillac. Stopped the car and waved bye right in my face. Got back in the car and drove off with a woman next to him. Scarf flying. He rang me back half-hour later saying Howard had said away at 3 a.m. Half-hour before my dream. Then Dad told me the other day it was always Howard's dream to cruise down Route 66 in a classic car. My dad and his brother and sister have all had their mom and dad in their dreams. Gram died last summer. Grandpa way back in 13. Do I get the visits? No, come on, I'm your favorite. Only, but Gram always said favorite grandchild. Why did I just get dreams of being in the house the way it was back in the 90s, but not see you too? I've seen my father in the last almost 4 years since he passed. It has always been pleasant, and in some cases, I even recognize that it's a dream, and how nice it is to see him. I've dreamt of my mother a few times since she passed. 1 year ago tomorrow. One was weird how she was alive in the dream, but in my mind I knew she had passed. It was really weird and comforting in that I knew she was gone, but also got to experience being in her presence and talking to her again. My dad shows up in dreams periodically. Last week I dreamed I was at my childhood home preparing to host a party or a reunion, and the place was a mess and grass was tall. As I was preparing to start working, my dad rounded the corner on a mower and asked me to help mow the lawn. I still see my dad. My dad has been gone almost 30 years now. I have had very vivid dreams of him just sitting and talking with me. It's nice. I oddly remember every dream with him in it, right down to the conversations he and I had. No, my family fucking hates me. LMAO. They don't even visit me when they're dead. I wish. Yes, only once. I dreamt of my nan once. It was wonderful, truly felt like her saying hello to me. Hard to describe, but I'll always remember it. It was such a comfort. I also deeply miss my cat. I've only ever dreamt of him once, which didn't feel like a visit, but I hope for one. I'll even try and wish to see him in my dreams, but nothing thus far. I, like others, enjoy these dreams. A best friend of many years and I had a falling out, and we had no contact for almost 20 years. Then I heard she had died. It was shocking and sad, as she wasn't that old, and obviously it was too late to patch up our relationship. Sometime after, I had a very clear and detailed dream that she came to me, and we talked for hours, sitting outside on a lovely summery day, and made our peace with each other. When I awoke, it felt like a real experience. Yes, it might really be them, or it might not be. If it's not, I think then it's just a dream God put in your head because he knew it would comfort you to have that dream. Had my ex show up in a dream. Was comforting after he died. He was sitting in a red chair and was patting the red chair next to him. So I'd sit next to him and saying it will be all right. My dad visited me in my dreams on a regular basis, and it was so awkward. He didn't know he was dead. In my dreams he was alive and wondering where his money was. I finally told him he had passed on and he hasn't visited me since. My brother passed and he's only visited me twice. The first time I was so shook I sat bolt upright in bed. Kinda mad at myself for that. Wish I could have been chill to see what he wanted, etc. I miss my brother something horrible, so of course he's not the one to vis it more often. Frequently, I have constant recurring themed dreams involving my late daughter. Every dream starts in a similar way. She calls me. She is very excited to talk and says she can't wait to see me. She loves me, and she will meet me later at the bookstore or coffeehouse or movie theater. These are things we did often. I arrive to meet her and she is not there. I wait. Soon I am approached by someone. Example. The barista walks up to me and says, "I know you are waiting for Shauna. You know she can't come. She wants you to know that she wants to though." I leave. Heartbroken. I wake up. Heartbroken. But these dreams feel so real. It's so good to hear her. And I'm so excited to be seeing her. And then someone explains again that she can't come. Sometimes they tell me she loves me and misses me too. Grief is hard, y'all. I don't know if all this is a message from her or not. I dream about my late husband. I've been having visits from my dad. The first was a goodbye I had last year. He passed away December of 2022. It's been hard. But I had a dream not too long ago. He came to me and I argued with him. He was never a fan of my husband. But I think I was pregnant again with a girl and he was mad at me. I'm not pregnant. So I DK what it means, but the times I've had dreams like that was when I was pregnant with my first and second. So maybe I am? Woman shrugging, light skin tone. How often are negatives false tears of joy? I had a very vivid dream about my dad a few years after he died. I was with my mom and brothers in my childhood home, sitting around the kitchen table. Suddenly the front door opened and my dad walked in. We are speechless. 'Cause we knew in my dream he was dead. He explained God let him come back to earth and spend another day with us, since he worked a lot and didn't get to spend a lot of time with us. My mom died in 2021 and we hadn't spoken for 3 years. She'd always hated me, but by the end she despised me. Like, the only way I could describe her face when she looked at me was as though she was thinking, ugh, are you not dead yet? When she did. So yeah. We ended on bad terms. About 6 months after she died, I had this super random dream. Random student at my work was making a bomb, and I happened to look up at a building window and my mom was stood in it, smiling and waving at me. Now, the feeling in that dream was so ridiculous. It was like I felt a message. It just felt warm. Like, I woke up and knew she'd forgiven me and realized her wrongdoings. I felt so peaceful about everything with her. I immediately wrote about it in a note on my phone, and I'm glad I did. Because as time has gone on, I forget about the dream and remember how shitty things were and how much she hated me. Or I remember the dream and think, it was just a dream. But I read my note back and try my best to remember the feeling it gave me. No. But I can tell you this is a normal thing in psychology. Dreams are a mix of daily life, childhood general life trauma, and memories. As I have dreams about my dickhead dad or my mom being drunk once in a while. Sometimes, the faces morph in dreams. No matter how much you seem conscious in your dream, and try to pretend it's different, it might change even more. I call it reverse lucid dreaming, where you know you're in control of the situation, but you aren't as powerful and have to pretend. Or that's just me, but the fist thing I know is common. About a month or 2 ago I had a dream that I was at my grandma from my mom's side's house and that we were playing Super Nintendo race car games and eating sugar cookies out of a metal tin together. When I woke up I was kind of sad that it wasn't real. I had a dream about my grandfather years after his death that he showed up in a blurry light and I held onto his leg begging him to not go as he headed back toward the light. He looked healthy, whole, and saintly. I woke up so traumatized about the distress I was in the dream. The strangest dream I ever had featuring a deceased family member was definitely the time I saw my great-grandmother in a dream. She died 30 years before I was born. The first several years after a loved one passes, they are in my dreams but won't speak. I'm told this is common. Now my mom and dad appear in random dreams. We talk. It's been 22 years since mom died. 14 years since dad died. Those dreams are heaven in my mind. I'm 50 and still can have days when I really need them. No, just IRS agents. Probably doesn't count. And I'm not saying it's on the same level as other people's posts here. But the only pet cat I've ever had pops up in my dreams every once in a while. You're not making it up, you're just having a dream. I don't really remember my dreams anymore. When I was little I dreamed of my great-grandmother in a dream. In the dream I said I have to tell my mother about this so she can play your numbers. I told my mom and she played her grandmother's birthday the American way month, day and said it so if the numbers were in the wrong order she would still get some money. The lottery came out the European way day, month, but she won $300 to $400, enough to buy new winter coats for all her kids, which she had been worrying about. Sometimes they are just saying hi and checking in. Other times they might be trying to help. Is anything stressing you out? I've had my son visit me in dreams occasionally. He's always older, as if he's grown with the passing time. He's healthy and not hooked up to the hospital machines. He was a baby when he passed. A rare genetic condition. I think it's his way of checking in and telling me he's doing good. I've dreamed about my great-grandparents. My grandma and her brother on several occasions, and they all look like you say. They like I remember, but healthier, happier, glowing. Enjoy the moments. And even if you're not religious, know there's a promise that one day you will be with them again. Red heart. I've had several dreams with loved ones. They always involve conversations. And I usually am aware that they are dead. I also get visits from my first dog, Chewy. I'm not a religious person, but I'd like to believe we'll all meet up someday. And I can visit my loved ones left behind. My most memorable one was the father of 2 girls I was a nanny for. He passed away when the girls were young. I was very close with the family. We still get together a few times a year. The dream was at a beach. And we were sitting on a long wooden wall, facing the ocean. There were a lot of balloons attached to the wall. He asked me if I could make sure his girls were okay. I did my best. They're in their 30s now, married with kids of their own.